somebody much as I want you. I never thought I'd ever love somebody much as I love you. Nobody said you would be the one to change my mind, 'cause love was my taboo, now you're my
You're welcome to Inclusive Voices, which is part of our public enlightenment series towards the sensitization of the general public, private institution, towards the driving of disability inclusion in all aspects of our economy. And I'm your host, Okeogene Jane Akweva. And today we'll be talking about albinism. And I have a guest. After the break, you meet my guest. Thank you.
I never thought I'd ever want somebody much as I want you. I never thought I'd ever love somebody much as I love you. Nobody said you would be the one to change my mind, 'cause love was my taboo, now you're my
Oh, you're welcome back. And here's my guest. Please, can you introduce yourself?
All right, thank you. My name is Okoye Vincent Chinedu.
Oh, you're welcome to Inclusive Voices.
It's my pleasure.
All right, thank you very much. Can you tell us what albinism is?
All right, sure. Albinism, in clinical terms, is a genetic condition characterized by partial or complete absence of tyrosine, which is a copper-containing enzyme involved in the production of melanin. Okay.
Oh, really enlightening. So what are the causes of albinism?
Okay, so like the definition entails, so cause of albinism is actually an inherited gene, which or what I refer as genetic condition. Okay, so it happens like maybe if a parent, be it from the mother or from the dad, who happens to be a albinism gene carrier. And if both of them marry and they are both carriers of these genes, and tend to actually give birth to a child with albinism. So in other words, it's a genetic condition, something that you inherit from your parents, and it's actually a kind of defection in some of the chromosomes, which I wouldn't really want to go into much details, but it's actually a genetic condition that transmits from the mother or from the father to the child. And for someone to be an albinism carrier, it means that both parents must either have these genes within them. And there are also types of albinism, which, if time permits, I can actually throw more light on that, because there are persons with albinism who are actually neurotypical in color, which means those that we can see them with dark complexion, but they are actually persons with albinism. That will also show more in terms of their visual sight. So you tend to know that this one is actually person with albinism by the sight, while there are other type, which is what we also call, there are two types, which is ocular albinism and oculocutaneous albinism. So for me, as an example, I'm a full-blown oculocutaneous person with albinism. So, and there are also in oculocutaneous, actually there are other types, which as we progress, probably I might have time to throw that. But to sum it up, what causes albinism is a commutation or genetic conditions which affects the chromosomes, either from the parent or from the dad, which at the end then transmits into the child. So it's something that you inherit from your child, not actually issue concerning the child itself. Thank you.
Oh, wow, this is really great. I want you to explain the health challenges of persons with albinism.
Okay, so I would actually be using myself an example, and I can also say that I'm actually a little bit lucky, because people watching me might not really tell what persons with albinism goes through tediously. So, for example, the issue of, let's talk about the issue of sun. You see, sun is the greatest enemy of persons with albinism. Once you expose yourself to the sun, you actually get burned, either freckles, sunburns, or sometimes, and that's actually what leads to skin cancer. And I can tell you that about 78%, or if not 80% of persons with albinism death occurrence in the world is actually associated with skin cancer. And that is as a result of sun exposure, because of the ultraviolet rays that the sun gives. And this happens because the melanin, which actually like the pigment that protects the skin from sunburn, which like the defensive factor melanin, is very low or almost absent, and as a result it exposes the skin of persons with albinism to sun distraction and damages. And that's why, because if you look at it, there's no how you can actually avoid the sun completely. So we have this issue of health issue regarding the skin condition. And secondly also, part of the issue on albinism is what has to do with the eyesight. You understand, even though I'm wearing these glasses, but in as much as I'm wearing these glasses, it can actually correct the eye condition 100%. It only adds a little bit supportive factor to what I originally have. But there are people that even these glasses cannot even make any difference in their life. So which means that we are short-sightedness in nature, because in as much as you think I am wearing these glasses, there are some distance that I may not actually be able to see, and that brings about the issue of persons with albinism education stuffs. When you go to school, people tend to actually discriminate you, or you find it very difficult because you cannot be able to see from the sitting position to the writing board. So it becomes a very big health issue. So, and sometimes when you go out without any protection, the sun tends to hit more on your eye because of the retina. The sun, because sun hits into the eyes instead of being, because if it's phenotypical types, which is those with normal color, if I might use the word, so the eye actually have the dark color that actually protects the eye from the sun, and only the retina that gives you a little dot where the light can actually go in. But in persons with albinism, it's not actually like that. You can see it soon exposed. It's as if people with different colors, pink and the likes, which means that the light can actually harm us excessively. And that is why you see most persons, once we get to the sun, we tend to go almost blind because of that issue. Then another thing that we also look, there are types of albinism that actually have more complications, because there are some that actually goes down with Down syndrome, in the sense that you see some of them, they'll be bleeding, like, although this is like 1 in 100, for example. So there are a lot of issues, but the basic ones is this skin cancer and the eyes. And let me say this, people might not actually understand the way it is until you go to National Hospital or in the villages. You see a lot of us, black freckles, dark spots. Some people you can actually start to run away from them, probably because of the condition. But these are something that actually is avoidable if infrastructure is actually attainable.
Okay, so what you're saying, for what you've explained, what you're saying that the hospitals is not really accessible for persons with albinism.
Yes, okay, so if you look at it here, thank you. So if you look at it, anything that has to do with dermatological stuff probably is not easy to get, okay? And if you look at it, and especially with the issue of skin cancer, even before you get to the malignant stage, like when you start having the signs that, okay, this is a sign, maybe you are getting the freckles, and maybe you are getting the sunburns or moles, for you to be able to go to get a medical attention, it requires a huge amount of money. And if you look at it, percentage of persons with albinism in this country, for example, are actually from poor background, and that affects medical accessibility, and there is no subsidy onto this. So government actually is not doing much as expected to actually help persons with albinism to, I know the government has been trying their best, but then there are some basic amenities or provisions that if is put in place will actually reduce the health implications or complications around albinism. Take for example, initially National Hospital Abuja here was actually approved by the federal government to treat persons with albinism on skin cancer related. But that happened only for a few years, and that was put to hold simply because government stopped paying them the bills, and National Hospital now stopped the treatment. So if you go, There are a lot of people that are dying silently on skin cancer, and it's terrible. But then we see how if people and government can come to aid to see that we save lives. These lives are people who can actually contribute a quota to national development.
Thank you so much. It's really, really enlightening. Apart from the health issues of persons with albinism, can you actually share the challenges persons with albinism face in Nigeria?
Wow, you might not end here if I should detail them, but then I will try as much as possible to offer a synopsis of that. So take for example, are we going to talk from the home? Are we going to talk from the education side? Are we going to talk about the workplace? Are we going to talk about even the marital angles? But then let me see what I'll do. In education first, you will see that the most challenging part for persons with albinism are those from their childhood, trying to have the basic education. Then in most cases, when you go to school, you see your peers singing all manner of songs for you. Oyibo pepe, shuku shuku pepe, yeah, stuff like that. And sometimes those ones are derogatory, and it's actually discriminatory in nature. Sometimes if you are not actually the type that is determined, you will tend to lose focus. And sometimes that's why you see a lot of persons with albinism, they hardly go to school simply because of the mockery. And again, the learning environment is not actually conducive for persons with albinism. In as much as, yes, it's fine for us to be sitting at the front seat, but despite the front seat, depending on some classes, the writing board versus the sitting position is still well far for persons with albinism to actually be able to see. So it's always better, except the teachers, and here is also what we now call for teachers and other educators, to try as much as possible to understand what albinism entails and how best to include them in the school environment. If we can give them very much close to the board and give them your notes or dictate, in as much as when you are writing on the board, you dictate, like you voice out what you are writing. We are judged intelligent people, so we can actually pen down what we hear, more or less. So if that will actually help us. Then secondly, and even in the pastry, sometimes when you go to play, sometimes people tend to discriminate you, thinking that, oh, what can you do? You cannot even see very well. But this is actually a wrong notion, because I play table tennis, I play football, but then it's depending on the nature of upbringing that you have. So that will also entail, this is also called to people to also understand that. And then again, if you look at it again, sometimes in relationship, this actually hammers more on our ladies, female or girls with albinism. Sometimes people tend to molest them or try to abuse them, like maybe because you're a person with albinism who will even maybe date you or stuff like that. Sometimes they take, maybe thinking that they're doing you a favor by asking you out, all simply just for them to like have their will over you, and which is actually wrong, and I totally condemn this. And it's also a call for persons with albinism to find themselves and make sure that they accept themselves, know your worth, so that people will not molest you or underrate you.
Exactly.
Now, in employment angle, talk about it also. You look at it, many people tend not to even employ persons with albinism. They will feel like, what are you going to contribute? Like, you cannot see, don't come and embarrass my company, or don't come and... So some of those wrong notions that they are worthless. Some people think maybe you are taboo, you are born as a result of probably wrongdoing from your parents, you are gods, you are like a lot of wrong notions. So these are actually most of the challenges that persons with albinism face. But I tell you, if you give person with albinism the opportunity to express or demonstrate his utmost ability, you will find out that there will be no difference between what a person with albinism can do versus what the neurotypical can do. It's all about the enabling environment. Give us the adequate condition and the equipment, we will excel. So that's just the whole stuff.
That's great. That's lovely. Can you tell the general public the right terminology for addressing persons with albinism? Can you...
All right. Yes. Okay. So, like obviously, even despite the campaign and everything that has been going on regarding derogatory words that people do use about us, so you see some people calling even the word albino. Yeah, I know that over time that has actually been in the circulation, but according to UN viewpoints these days, so even the word albino is actually derogatory. So it's better you address the persons with albinism. And so you don't have to maybe tell the person his condition. Don't refer the person albino person or albinism person. Please, we already know the condition. You don't have to refer to that person with his condition. He's human before the condition. So first, use the word person with albinism. Likewise, there are not just only other disabilities as well. So that is just the word, but nobody should come and say Afe or Ibo Pepe, all those manner of words. It's actually derogatory, and it's actually demoralizing. If the society can begin to change and see people with albinism as equal and actually part of the society, who is part and parcel of what Nigeria or the world is all about. So the right word is persons with albinism, not albino, not afe, not obanze for some other languages like that. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much. You have said a lot about persons with albinism. Can you give the final word in overall, generally, to tell as an advice to the general public about persons with albinism?
All right, so before I do that, I also first like to also call the attention of fellow persons with albinism. Yeah, because one thing is this: you are referred to what you refer yourself as. Yes. And you are addressed the way you address yourself. Mm-hmm. So what you make yourself to be is who you becomes. Exactly. First, understand and value yourself. Make sure that you have the understanding of who you are. Identify your worth, your strength, build on that. Let me tell you, if you value yourself, people will value you. If you position yourself to excel, people will have no choice than to reckon with you. And that is why, first of all, make sure that you value who you are, you define a niche for yourself and work for it. And to the general public, let me also say this, that no matter how, your life might not be the same with the other person. Where your strength is might be another person's weakness. Exactly. And your weakness might be another person's strength. So there is no need of us discriminating against persons with albinism. All we just need to show is to show the inclusiveness of our society. Be inclusive, value people. Every human being is born equal. It's only opportunities that might differ. So whatever you do, just know that the cup you use to measure for one person might also be measured for you tomorrow. We are all potential persons with disabilities, and albinism inclusive. So let's all work together for an inclusive society.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. You have really enlightened us of persons with albinism. And to our general public, you've all heard about the discrimination of persons with albinism. They are able, they are capable. He has enlightened us. And this NGO, we are looking at a world without discrimination, inclusive voice for women and youth, inclusion for all. So I thank you very much for being part of Inclusive Voices. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too.
I never thought I'd ever want somebody much as I want you. I never thought I'd ever love somebody much.